Well, I said welcome and thanks for your time today. It's been my privilege to work with the faith community since the 90s for EPA. And based on the faith traditions that I've encountered, you've been valuable allies and colleagues in our common cause to protect human health and protect the ecosystems and resources that sustain human life. I'm especially pleased today that our headline speakers have both returned to public service in this administration. I was honored to work with them in the past and even more so today. First, we'll welcome Melissa Rogers in her second tour of duty as Executive Director of the White House Office for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Jerry, for that very kind introduction and for all of your leadership over the years. Jerry has really poured his heart and soul into this work. And we just couldn't be more grateful for all that he's done in Washington and beyond across the country to help us partner together to combat climate change and to ensure that we have environmental justice for everyone. So good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here with you. I also want to thank Deputy Administrator Janet McCabe for joining us, as well as my friend Rosemary Inobarkari, who is the Associate Administrator for Public Engagement and Environmental Education, for her work and support. And we obviously couldn't do this work without all of you who have joined the call. So thank you for taking time today to have a conversation with us as we look forward to joining hands in the future on these important issues. Let me just say a few words about the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships. I know many of you are familiar with the office from the Obama-Biden administration, but let me just recap a little bit here. As many of you know, President Biden reestablished this office in February of this past year, and those who know President Biden found this to be no surprise. He has worked his whole career with faith and community groups, hand in glove, to promote issues that are important to people both in our nation and around the world, especially serving people in need, which is, of course, the heart of our mission. That's our bullseye, and that's what President Biden cares so much about, and he knows that faith and community groups are absolutely essential to reaching that mission. We work with interested community-serving organizations, faith-based and secular, to accomplish that mission of serving people in need. And in addition to the White House Partnerships Office, there are centers for faith-based and neighborhood partnerships spread across a number of federal agencies, and also there are other staff devoted to these efforts, including at EPA, that we work with. So we work very much in partnership across federal agencies to break down silos and to make sure that we're providing all kinds of opportunities for people to work together to serve people in need. And one of the great things about this office is that people of all backgrounds and beliefs want to be a part of this work. And that includes many people who may differ from the administration on some issues, but that's part of the teamwork that we welcome and value so much. And all of this work is done consistent with our constitutional guarantees, including church-state separation and freedom for people of all faiths and none. Well, years ago, back during the Obama-Biden administration, I had the great honor of helping facilitate the policy aspects of Pope Francis's visit to the United States. And as you will recall, the Pope's visit to the United States followed his publication of an encyclical, Laudato Si. And I joined thousands of Americans on the White House lawn to hear the Pope say, and I quote, "The environmental challenge we are undergoing and its human roots concern and affect us all. We wish to commit ourselves to the conscious and responsible care of our common home." And, you know, I love the way that Gina McCarthy has talked about what the Pope has said. Gina, of course, is the nation's first national climate advisor and a former EPA administrator. And in her pithy way, as she always does, she said, "His Holiness," referring to Pope Francis, of course, reminded us that fighting climate change isn't just about polar bears. It's about people. It's about our moral obligation to protect our children, our grandchildren, and the most vulnerable among us from the most significant public health challenges of our time. The Biden-Harris administration is making a host of efforts, both at home and abroad, to tackle climate change and ensure that there is environmental justice for everyone. The administration is not only just doing work on its own, it's doing work with a growing number of non-governmental organizations, including faith and community leaders, to accomplish these aims. And we just want to thank all the leaders who have joined the call specifically today for what you do in this space. You raise awareness about these issues, and you take countless steps to help protect people and the one planet that we all share. Your work simply could not be more critical. You help people understand why these issues matter and prick their consciences about the need to take action. And then you help them learn about and implement steps that they can take very easily in their daily lives, reminding them that we can all do things every day to make sure that we are reaching the goals of protecting all of our people in our own nation and around the world. And Jerry's going to highlight a number of partnerships programs that help promote these goals. And as always, we don't want this to be a one-way monologue. It has to be a dialogue. So we welcome your ideas about ways we can work these programs better, and we welcome your ideas about just things that we can do beyond what's covered today to reach the goals that we share. So just in closing, let me just say a great big thank you to Jerry and the team for leading this call today, and also a thank you to everyone who's joining. Thank you for your tireless efforts to help others. Thank you for your willingness to partner with us and share your great ideas. And thank you for reaching across differences in backgrounds and beliefs to help us strengthen this country. It's a big job, and it's going to take all of us to get it done. So thank you so much for being with us today. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jerry.
Thank you, Melissa. And apologizing for not being able to advance slides here. You weren't really properly introduced. Melissa is one of the experts in the country on church-state as a concept. She has worked in governance studies at Brookings Institution and as a visiting professor at the Divinity School, Wake Forest University. So we couldn't have a better person in this leadership role. We thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
Let's just default to advancing the slides by our host, please. Next slide. So Janet McCabe is back at EPA. Staff were very enthused. We admired Janet's work in the Obama administration. And as you can see, she has dedicated her life to working in environmental and other important causes, such as children's environmental health advocacy. So with that, I'm going to ask Janet to go ahead and, from her perspective as Deputy Administrator of EPA, share some comments.
All right. Well, thank you, Jerry, and welcome to everybody who's here. It's just wonderful to see the number of participants picking up, and it still is doing it. So I know that there's a lot of interest in programs. To be part of it. Also thrilled to be following Melissa. She feels like I do. She's thrilled to be back working for the Biden administration. I certainly am, and great to be back doing this work with Jerry and others, colleagues at EPA and across the government. I think you're going to hear some of the same themes from the two of us, but I'll also give you a little bit of a peek into the things that EPA in particular is doing now on the issue of climate change and environmental justice. I am just so grateful and honored and humbled to be back at EPA. I never thought I would have a second chance, and this time getting to work alongside Administrator Regan and the great career staff that we have at the agency. Truly, truly an honor to be part of the Biden-Harris administration and working on these important issues again. Starting many years ago now, can't hardly remember how long ago, I have worked in and with the faith community on climate change education and action as a member of a faith community myself, and also as someone who wanted to support faith communities learning how to do these things. I've had the opportunity to see firsthand how the faith community can educate, change hearts and minds, and bring even the most unlikely partners together for the common good. And I've also seen how so many of us have relied on our own faith to guide us in our pursuit of justice. As faith leaders, you have connected the dots for people between caring for God's creation and taking climate and environmental action in ways that government never, ever could. It is an incredibly powerful message and place from which to make forward progress. You provide opportunities for individuals and families to put their religious, ethical, and moral principles into practice. You have literally been part of the effort to practice what we preach, as houses of worship install solar panels, create butterfly gardens, commit to energy efficiency, and so many other steps in their own buildings and grounds, serving as examples in their communities. Even more, congregations are where people come to be bigger than themselves, to think and learn about how to be their best selves, caring for others and our world. And they take the lessons they learn to their own homes, families, schools, and workplaces. They learn about the issues and speak out to educate governmental officials in support of the policies they care about. They write letters to the editor to educate the wider community and have conversations in the grocery store, at the Boys and Girls Clubs, and at the soccer games. Messages from the faith community about our obligation as humans to care for the most vulnerable among us are also critically important. The poor, communities of color, communities that have historically been subjected to greater burdens of pollution, these are the communities that are bearing and will bear a greater burden from climate change, and they have fewer resources to be resilient. So your partnership is essential to the work we do every day to improve people's lives. That's why I'm so proud that President Biden reestablished the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, and why I'm so excited to have Melissa Rogers joining that office and joining our session today. Her efforts will strengthen the federal government's partnership with religious and secular organizations who are on the front lines of their communities in need. And the work of that office will complement what Jerry and others at EPA do on a daily basis to connect you with a wide range of environmental issues and resources. I got to know Jerry when I was at EPA during the Obama administration and was so glad I did. And while EPA may not have been as active in this space over the last few years, Jerry and others in our team have kept these connections with all of you alive and well. Climate change and environmental justice, two of the most compelling challenges of our time, are intertwined. And this administration has made clear that we will tackle and make progress on both. Going forward, we have an ambitious
We lost Janet's audio.
Yeah, it looks like we lost Janet's audio.
Okay, well, we'll see if Janet's audio recovers in a few moments. Let's move on to the next slide, and if Janet, if you rejoin us, let's get her back in the middle of this. I've had the privilege of working for taxpayers at the local, state, federal, and regional levels, including electric and water utilities, and all of that gave me some preparation for this job. Let's go to the next slide, please. Unfortunately, we're looking at somewhat of a resurgence in COVID, despite all the best efforts of this administration and the health community. Our colleagues at the CDC offer visitvaccines.gov, and more well, not as differently. On the left-hand side, you see that EPA has its own coronavirus website. What is unique is our list of disinfectant products. We have guidance on protecting water quality and returning to buildings that may have been not in full use. So please come to epa.gov, and if you get a copy of the slides, these are all hot linked. Likewise, if you have trouble finding anything, my email will be the very last slide today. Next, please. As Janet said, EPA a few months ago, very quickly in the administration, relaunched our climate change information, our global warming website. And just about 3 weeks ago, we started up a new website called Climate Change Indicators. But what we've done for the last 30 years, and was announced by our administrator last week, is through voluntary partnership programs, partnering and investing in efficiency and clean energy. Some 6 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent have been prevented, and $500 billion have been saved over this period of time. And there's several different programs that we'll talk about. Next, please.
Sherry, just getting it. There you go.
All these EPA programs together that focus on climate for the year 2019, which is our last secure data, reduced by 8% equivalent of all U.S. emissions, just with these EPA programs that are not regulatory. We've had a lot of success. It's really why there's nearly 40% of the Fortune 500 are partnering with Energy Star. More than half of all U.S. households knowingly purchased Energy Star certified products in 2019. And 90% of U.S. households recognize the Energy Star. More than 800,000 jobs in the United States are based on manufacturing or installing Energy Star certified products. And our Green Power Partnership Program accounts for 14% of all non-hydropower electricity generation. Next, please. So in the time we have, I'm going to touch on 10 different EPA programs or resources that are of direct value or general value to the faith community. And considering the large number of written questions submitted during registration, not to mention any popping up in the chat, my simple math told me I had about 30 seconds for each question asked. So we have a strategy. We'll answer what we can today. You'll have my email address, and I have the email addresses for the people who ask questions. I'll attempt to interweave any answers to some of the general questions as I go ahead. So these, again, are some of the programs. You'll see they cover a range of issues. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay, as I said, 3 weeks ago, we launched the Climate Change Indicators. It's a companion to our general climate change information. And these indicators are assembled by some 50 organizations of scientists, educators, and professionals. And they are an important input to the national climate assessment. So let's look on the next slide at some of these indicators. These are hard to see, but let me tell you a few of them. And the ones that, this is like data to support your view of the evening news. We have data on floods and drought, wildfires, heat waves, stronger and more frequent storms, changes in our growing seasons, heat and cold related emergencies, residential energy cost, increased ranges for certain diseases. And the screenshots you see here is half the page. There are dozens more indicators that you can go and click and see what the best scientific minds are saying about all these different types of issues that are impacting us today and will be on the news tonight, unfortunately. Next, please. as I think both Janet and Melissa referred to, environmental justice is, in a way like climate change, an overarching issue. And as defined here is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of differences, with respect to the development and implementation and enforcement of all environmental laws, regulations, and policies. On the right, you'll see our new EJ screen, where with your zip code, you can find out what's going on with regard to environmental justice in your area. Janet, we welcome you back. Can you hear and speak?
Yes, I am so sorry. My computer just decided to crash on me. I'm sure nobody's ever had that happen to them.
We are a Zoom and WebEx society. Everybody that's listening has had this happen to them or on an event. I want to invite you, Janet, to join back in with anything you would like to offer as we go. I know you mentioned— I'm happy to
do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Jerry, but if you want to finish, that's fine too. I don't want to interrupt you.
Well, was there anything special you would like to say about environmental justice? That's such a big issue, and it's EPA's big issue.
Yeah, well, again, so sorry for this, but we have to learn to be flexible and be calm in the face of these things. Oh, I'm sweating a little bit right now. Yeah. But what I wanted to say is that through executive orders that have been issued by this president starting on day one, he's just made absolutely clear that in this administration, we will make progress on environmental justice and on climate change. And as I said, those things are just completely intertwined. So what that means is that every executive department and every agency in the federal government, including EPA, is going to be looking at environmental justice, equity, and climate change in everything we do. And speaking for EPA, that's in our spending, our planning, our outreach, the rules that we do, the programs that we invest in, so that we're all going in the same direction and put enough energy and resources into these issues to make real progress. The president's budget for the next fiscal year has significantly more resources for environmental justice and for climate change. We've also been doing some other things following direction from the president. We've been looking back at the rules that were adopted in the previous administration to ensure that they're consistent with science, that they adhere to the law, and that they protect public health and the climate. And we've been taking action where we found that those rules did not, either looking to vacate them or looking to replace them. And we have a number of really important rulemakings underway. And that's a way, of course, that the faith community can be involved by knowing about those regulatory efforts, weighing in and supporting them, sending comments in with information on the issues to make them the best and most defensible and supportable rules. We know that our policies are strongest and most effective when they've been informed by people's lived experiences. And that requires early and frequent engagement with communities, and that's what we intend to do, as well as making all of our decisions based on science, what we hear from diverse voices from across the country, and the rule of law. So from opportunities like the Green Power Partnership, Energy Star, Water Sense, and Safer Choice, which Jerry either has already talked about or will talk about, these are great resources and opportunities for those of you in your communities who want some help, want to get started, want some tools, want to do it the way other people have found is useful to do and not reinvent wheels. This is the sort of help that we want to provide. So thank you so much again for giving me probably more time than was originally allotted and being forgiving of my glitches here. And I'll turn it back to Jerry, and look forward to listening to the rest of his presentation and answering questions if there's time for any.
Thank you, Janet, for amplifying on environmental justice. And this is our Deputy Administrator, not stopped by a technical glitch, back with us and fighting for environmental justice. At epa.gov/environmental justice, I want to call out is a place you can look for grants, funding, technical assistance, and resources for your community. And this, I know, is something that the faith community can really provide some leadership on. Let's go to the next slide. So Energy Star for congregations has been my home for some decades. One of the things we've learned over those decades is that not only most congregations, but most commercial, industrial, residential buildings can cut their energy cost about 30%. The converse of that is that we inadvertently waste about 30% through built-in inefficiencies or lack of proper maintenance and operational substandards. So our job all day, every day is to help all our partners find ways to simultaneously save money, which prevents pollution and is better for human health. And of course, we like to hear how our congregational partners repurpose those savings to their own priorities. So in short, Energy Star has the tools, the training, the technical support your tax dollars have provided. We have a tool that will score your house of worship and other buildings for a baseline and to track progress, and we recognize excellence. So please visit energystar.gov/congregations. Next, please. So Portfolio Manager, this is the tool I was referencing to baseline and benchmark and track your energy performance. And that's not all. Next slide, please. As you can see here, not only can you track your energy use, for which your house of worship will be scored on a 1 to 100 scale, comparing it to other worship facilities. It's an apples to apples comparison with worship facilities. And you will immediately see I'm a 50, I'm average, or I'm above or below, and it gives you a quick idea. And then month by month, as you continue to include your energy data, your score hopefully will be going up and up. At a score of 75, you'll be eligible for Energy Star certification. These days, you can also track your water use intensity. We know many congregations have recycled for decades. You can track waste and materials management. And of course, based on your zip code and your energy use interacting through Portfolio Manager with EPA's database that your utility reports to, your greenhouse gas emissions will be calculated for your individual house of worship based on the zip code. And you can, of course, track your decline in emissions. Next, please. I should add one other feature is that all of, in a given denomination or a faith-based sustainability organization, you can aggregate your data into one number for a denomination across the country or across the town. Here are a couple of resources. The Action Workbook for Congregations. The reason you see 3 different covers is that these days with denominations, denominational and interfaith group, with cities, states, utilities, we offer what we call co-branding. That is, you send us the cover you would like. We'll turn over the inside cover to your organization for your program information. We would welcome a full-page letter on letterhead from your executive director. And we have worked with a large number of membership organizations to integrate even more customization with local utility information or local municipal information. One of the key aspects of this is the no-cost, low-cost, sure savers. We've had some of our questions come in saying, we don't have the money to do everything we know we should do. Well, we have a strategy starting with no-cost actions that we articulate, moving on to lower-cost actions and leveraging those savings into investments that have a return. So we've been doing this a while, and we have a lot of strategies to help you. And you can start really with just your commitment and some effort on your part locally. Next, please. Energy Star labeled products. This is probably why 90% of American homes know who Energy Star is. You can't read this, of course. That's because there are dozens and dozens and dozens of Energy Star labeled products. At this homepage, energystar.gov/products, you can click on a link and go right to the latest information on that type of product. There are calculators to help you compare Energy Star to non-Energy Star. There's a zip code-driven rebate finder, a zip code-driven product finder. You can find videos, podcasts, purchasing guides, and certainly the FAQs. So anything you want to know about what is an Energy Star product or not, you might be surprised. There are water coolers, electric vehicle chargers. It's not just light bulbs. It's a lot. Next, please. We have other resources. On the right, or on the left-hand side, we have something called treasure hunts. One of our questions was, well, gosh, that Energy Star Action Workbook is 90 pages. That's a lot, you know. Well, yes, it is, and we're proud of it. We keep adding to it and updating it. But if that seems a lot to start with, look at energystar.gov/treasure hunt. You'll see a link there to maps. There is a treasure map specifically for houses of worship. It's 6 pages, even less than 6 pages. It has all kinds of facts and tips and links for worship facilities and the green team, the facility manager, the vestry, clergy, for anyone there that is interested in cutting your cost and putting it back in your ministry. On the right is a representation of Bring Your Green to Work. This is a set of resources for the green team at the congregation. We have a checklist, posters, tip cards. We have a ready-to-go PowerPoint, best practices. So energystar.gov/work, and on the left-hand side, treasure hunt for more resources. Next, please. Our sister program at EPA, we're so proud of WaterSense, epa.gov/WaterSense. Like Energy Star, WaterSense labels products, water-using products. They're all certified to use at least 20% less water than regular models. And if you go to the home page, or as a congregation, you may want to go on to the commercial buildings page at the bottom. You'll see worksheets, checklists. They offer live and recorded webinars. They're pretty much a mirror image of Energy Star in a whole lot of ways, except for water. Next, please. This is a screenshot of their page. You can see they offer dozens of resources. Upper left, we'll show you in a moment some of the products. They have WaterSense for kids. Kids love to learn about this. There's a lot you can learn about the water we use, all of us, and what's around us. We know that landscaping and outdoors is an issue and a part of water use for many congregations. So for homes, for commercial buildings, this is the place to come. WaterSense, Energy Star, pardon me, epa.gov/WaterSense. Next, please. So here's a shot of some of the leading products that are labeled. There are more than 20,000 WaterSense labeled products. Here again is the logo to look for when you're shopping for any of these type of products. Next, please. We've got other great, well, here's the WaterSense guide for commercial buildings. So at the commercial buildings page I mentioned earlier, this is a PDF of a great guide you can download, especially if you're in facility management or have any responsibility for the use of water in your house of worship or wherever you work. Next, please. Another great program, solar. We had a lot of questions about solar, and what you want to do there is go to epa.gov/greenpower. Start there, but really get on to the guide for purchasing green power and the RE, Renewable Energy Power Toolbox. Both great downloads to help guide you with solar for your congregation. Of course, you want to be efficient first. You want to be more efficient before you buy any large new equipment, be it solar, heating, air conditioning, boiler. So start with efficiency, but go ahead and start learning about all the forms of green power and solar. Next, please. Here's a great guide, Healthy Houses of Worship. It really covers virtually every EPA program because our agency is founded on the concept of protecting human health. So you'll see all the issues on the left: asthma, drinking water, idling vehicles outside the house of worship if you're urban, various chemical issues, indoor air quality, etc. And not to mention federal grants and financial assistance. So this is a free download. Go get it today, epa.gov/education/supporting healthy houses of worship. Next, please. Also, I learned about this from a lot of congregations a few years ago asking me what they could do about stormwater runoff because they were paying fines and had to pay fees for the stormwater running off their property, carrying pollution to the nearest waterway. This is sort of a long URL address, but we'll be sure you can get it. If you just go to epa.gov, you can search for Saving the Rain and find your way to stormwater solutions. This talks about landscaping, a lot of things you can do on site with plumbing and equipment as well as the property itself. Next, please. Go check out Greener Living, epa.gov, environmental topics/greener living. Several links there, and I'm going to cover only a couple of them. Next, please. Safer choice. Every congregation has to buy all types of cleaning products, maybe degreasing products for the kitchen. Go to epa.gov/safer choice and learn about all those certified products that work as well as non-certified, and you can read about the actual standards of safer choice. Next, please. Reduce, reuse, recycle. I know many congregations have been doing this for decades, but check in on epa.gov/recycle. We keep it updated. We have data. We can help you if you haven't done everything possible to do. We also have a link to some COVID-19 related resources for recycling. So please check this out. Be sure you're doing all you can do in your reduce, reuse, recycling efforts. Next, please. So finally, last resource I'm going to mention, we have a wonderful guide for energy efficiency and renewable energy in low-income communities. I'm privileged to be working now with Detroit, St. Louis, my colleagues in Georgia, starting to work in Darien, Georgia, in communities where we're looking at how can we help low-income communities, citizens whose share of energy costs is a higher percentage than the rest of us, perhaps. So here's a great tool you can find for low-income communities. So let's open up the last slide, please, so people can, the bottom right, see my email address. I'm very happy to follow up on any questions that were sent that weren't answered. I do have them, and I have the email of who asked them. I've tried to hit some of them in the time available. But at this time, I'd like to open up and see if there are some questions. We'd also welcome if a little bit of witnessing, any comments on what you're doing in your house of worship that's worked well that you might want to share.